Episode 3 saw us wrap up with my favorite gun, the G36, but now as we're getting into higher levels and it's taking more EXP to rank up, this is where things are going to get a little bit interesting. Let's hop into it. So the M93R and I had a little bit of a rough start together, as I'm going to show in this clip right now. We definitely were struggling a little bit. I think I was using the gun without the full purpose, which was just spamming it as hard as you can, super close range. I was trying to take fights at a little bit longer range, and I thought that, hey, maybe slow bursting this might be a decent way to go. It's not. The recoil, the initial recoil, I should say, from bullet 1 to 2 is just so high that if you aren't spamming this gun, you're just absolutely doing it wrong. When you spam it, the recoil seems to kind of even itself out, which is a little bit weird to say. But it seems like a lot of things in this game with burst guns, the harder you spam it and the more consistently you spam it, the more accurate you are. So instead of taking those slow bursts, I decided I would just spam it no matter what the range, and it worked out a lot better for me. It definitely took me a little bit to get into that groove, so there probably isn't too many clips that you're going to see where I am slow bursting it, just because it was kind of like hard to watch. It was definitely hard on the eyes. But overall, the M93R honestly is a really nice secondary. Super close range, you spam it, you can immediately kill people. It has the ability to one burst super close range, which I think is probably its like saving grace of the gun. You'll see in a few clips where I definitely one burst people, and it does help at times, but I still prefer the Tech 9, even the G18 over this. Other than the rough start to the gun, I still definitely had fun with it. So I think everyone would probably be excited for this gun, but if you're not, let me introduce you to the Augie HBar. This gun is an absolute monster of an LMG. It plays much like an assault rifle, just has a little bit more ammo. Obviously, it will have this slower reload because of the more bullets, but this gun is insane. It has extreme accuracy, as do all AUGs. I don't think you could talk about any of the AUGs in the game without discussing their accuracy. It also holds a decent amount of power, nothing too crazy. It's not something like, let's say, the M60's power, but it still holds a very nice punch. Not to mention that the gun is just easy. It's absolutely easy to use, and I think that's what makes it so appealing. It's actually kind of interesting that now that I think about it, most LMGs in this game are more accurate than a lot of other guns. Things like the L86, the Augie HBar, the Scar Hammer, the M60, the MG36, all those are extremely accurate guns, and most of them you could play pretty much like an AR. Like, obviously, the only main drawback is their movement speed and the reload time. The HBar is an insanely good gun. You unlock it at a really low rank. It doesn't require much attachments to be good. Honestly, it's really solid on its own. However, I hated the iron sights. It felt super zoomed in. I was not a fan of them at all. But you throw on like a compensator and even like a vertical or an angled grip, and that gun is a laser beam. You will instantly be able to do a lot better at long range gunfights. Please give it a chance. If you guys haven't used anything like the Augie HBar, the L86, the Hammer, things like that, try giving LMGs a chance. You will not regret it. I want to take this moment to quickly shout out my friends Spirals and Jafin. They both make really great PF content, a lot of high kill games, really good aim videos. I would definitely give them a shot while you guys are waiting for me to release another episode of the series. This is seeming to become a trend where I have really rough starts with guns, but before we continue this, I want to apologize. My audio on OBS got messed up when I was recording from here on out the rest of the video, so there won't be any gun noises. I really do apologize, just commentary and everything. However, let's hop into the L22. Really rough start. Again, I hated the iron sights. They were like Scar L iron sights, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of that similar kind of, you know, ring. I don't know. I hated them. I sucked with them. It was really bothersome to play with them, and I was really happy once I got past it and got that Z point. I also wasn't a huge fan of the lobby I was in. There's just some people in there who were just playing a bit too annoying for me, so I went ahead and I switched the lobby relatively soon. But as we got some attachments on the gun, I've really started to enjoy it more. I've made a video about the L22 in the past where I discussed how it's a pretty solid gun that not many people use, and I think the main reason is that when you don't have attachments, the gun just isn't that fun. I think the fun factor for the gun went a lot higher once I finally did have attachments and I was able to use the gun a bit more accurately, and I did get some, I believe, a few small like little kill feed things. Even at the end of the bazaar, you'll see the clip in the beginning where I got like, you know, 4 or 5 kills right there. Wasn't too bad. I started to get into a little bit of a groove and enjoyed the gun more, but again, at the start, I feel like this is really one of the guns that you need attachments for. Maybe some people will like the iron sight and I just simply don't, and they'll be able to adapt to the gun a lot quicker than I did. However, it wasn't something that I enjoyed at first. I don't have a ton of time to use these guns just yet, so I'm giving opinions based on a small form factor. Most of these guns I haven't used in a long time, but let's hop into the next. I apologize if you could hear the rain hitting my window. It's storming really bad right now. However, let's hop into the Motivo, which follows us up from the L22. I wasn't a huge fan of this gun. Granted, I'm not a huge fan of anything that's kind of Desert Eagle or Revolver-esque, where it's kind of a one-shot headshot and, you know, that's really about it. I definitely don't do well with him, as you can see within a lot of these clips, especially in my earlier episodes as well. I'm not as good as a one-tap headshot person as I used to be, and that definitely pushes my opinion on these guns. I personally prefer to play for high kills, where these guns are not the first option. Something like the Tech 9, G18, M93R, you spray someone down and you keep it moving, whereas these guns require a lot more aim, so I usually tend to not use them. It isn't my first pick, and I usually wouldn't ever recommend a revolver or Desert Eagle or anything like that to someone, just because I know of how much more aim it's going to take, how much harder it is to use. If you are someone who likes going for those one-tap headshots, you want to hit some nutty clips, go for it. The Motivo is definitely really nice for that. It doesn't have a lot of recoil, resets to its normal aim pretty quickly in my opinion, so it's kind of good for that. But on an overall user ability level, like a general, a newer player trying to use this gun is just not worth it. Stick to the Tech 9s, the auto pistols, anything like that. Even like an M1911, they're a lot easier to use, something you can spam compared to something that takes a lot more aim. That's just how I feel on it. The Scar H. One of the reasons for one of my most legendary rants back in the day, which a lot of people actually found my channel because I was just going off about the buff. The gun is still incredibly strong. 2-shot headshot close range, has a decent damage at long range, it has an okay amount of recoil, really nothing too bad. Once you put attachments on the gun, it's a lot more manageable. You don't even notice it too crazy much when you're just iron sight, no attachments, honestly. But the gun is overall still good. A lot of people seem to think that it got like nerfed into the ground, which is just not true at all. The main reason I primarily wanted the nerf to happen was because it was a 3-shot to the body at any range, and I thought that was just a little bit busted. The gun is still very much powerful. Anyways, I had fun with the gun. I thought it was pretty good to use. It was nice going back to something so powerful when I was using, you know, something like the Augie HBar, which is less damage, more accuracy, L22, not even that much damage, a lot more accuracy, and then we get to switch it up back into something that's more of a powerhouse. This is one reason I'm really liking this series, is because it's allowing me to switch between all these guns where I'm not always using the same thing. I can switch from, you know, less damage, high accuracy to more damage, low accuracy, and it really does spice things up for me. As for the gun itself, I really recommend it. It's kind of difficult to adjust from 30 bullets to 20, or at least it is for me personally. I found myself running out of ammo a lot more than I normally would, and I just wasn't getting as many kills because of that. I spent a lot more time worrying about my ammo than I would worrying about actually hitting shots, so that was a little bit of a drawback for me. But the gun is really good. I definitely think that it's still very much above average gun. I don't think that it was nerfed to the ground like a lot of people seem to make it out to be. It is what it is. This brings us on to the M16A3, where although it isn't the most powerful AR in the game, it's still pretty enjoyable to use. I feel like this gun is much more of a fun factor than anything else. It boasts anywhere from a 3-shot headshot super close range to a 5-shot to the body at long range. Even if you are headshotting at long range, it still takes you 3 headshots. It isn't too crazy good, but also not too bad. I feel like the M16A3 is a really good general kind of balance for most guns, in all honesty. It isn't an absolute laser beam. It doesn't have crazy high damage. It doesn't have crazy low damage. This is another gun that I consider to actually be decently somewhat balanced, which is why you probably don't see that many people using it, because it's a lot easier to use other guns in the game. You take something like, let's say, the Augie 1 or any of the Augs where they have the same kind of performance but just a lot better accuracy. It's hard to see why you would use this gun, but again, at the same time, it also is kind of special. The M16 series, and for me at least, has always been something that I enjoyed using ever since things like Call of Duty or anything like that. I've always enjoyed the M16 series, but this gun is just, knowing what I know about the game and knowing how busted some guns are, it's hard for me to justify using this on my own personally. But for most people, I think it's definitely worth giving a shot. It honestly comes down to your own personal preference. I know a lot of people who have, you know, 5, 10, 20, 30,000 kills on this gun, and they all really enjoy it. But if you're playing for, you know, the best damage gun in the game, it's not going to be your pick. If you want to have fun and use a gun that all around it sounds good, it feels good to use, it's rewarding to use, definitely give this one a go. I feel like these last few clips definitely demonstrate the potential that this gun can have. You can obviously see that my accuracy gets a lot better as I start getting, you know, the mini sight, the angled grip, compensator, everything on the gun, but it's still not an absolute laser beam, and I wish I had more long range clips to show that. It does hold its own really good. A map like Metro or Warehouse even is actually really good for this gun. Anywhere from like medium range, it really does uphold itself. At a long range, you'll fall off a little bit, but this is definitely a gun that you don't want to overlook.
City lights
The SCAR PDW is something of a wild SMG early on at this point in the game, where we have things later on like the M3A1 and the L2A3, which are absolute powerhouses of slower firing SMGs. The SCAR PDW is the first sense that you really get a look at that. Where most people don't realize is that the SCAR PDW is a 3-shot to the body or even the arms, legs, pinky toe, whatever, up to 60 studs, and then also 2-shot headshots up to 60 studs. It's an extremely powerful gun that I feel like is kind of slept on overall. If you guys look back on my channel and look up Godstatus SCAR PDW, you'll find that I made a video about this a while ago when it got buffed, and the gun became incredibly strong. You'll see in these clips, especially at these closer ranges, that I'm able to mow people down pretty easily. Don't get me wrong, this isn't something like the Vector, where you have an insane rate of fire that just seems like you're melting people, but at the same time, this gun really does hold its own. It's something that I personally enjoy using myself. It's something that I'm willing to use as a overall good gun. It's not even just for the fun factor of it. The gun is just really strong. Again, the reason I really like this is because it is kind of like the unicorn category of SMGs. For the longest time, we saw faster fire rate SMGs, and only over the past year or two did we get stuff that was more slowed down and really had a different kind of feeling to it. And I think that it really did provide something good to the game. My main choice is always going to be, you know, that 1000 RPM SMGs, just because I find them fun. I think they're more entertaining as a whole. Having something like this where you're able to fight really well at close range and even sort of at a medium range is really nice to have. You do lack in long range. It does turn into a 6-shot at distance, which is pretty rough, but at the same time, you really shouldn't be using this gun on any long range map. Using it on Metro, Warehouse, Luck even, is definitely something you could really hold this off, or if you do want to play on bigger maps, just holding tight angles or certain spots will work out really good as well. If you're a low rank looking for something a bit higher damage in the close range, definitely look at this gun and see how you guys like it. Leave me a comment giving me your opinion about the gun as well. And that is going to wrap up episode 4 for us. I know I wanted to make these series a bit longer, but I was really distracted this week and I didn't have much time to really edit or do anything like that. So hopefully next episode will be a little bit longer. I apologize for those of you who do want to see longer episodes. I really enjoyed this. I think it's going to be a lot better now going into these higher ranks, that I have a lot more XP to work with these guns, and I could finally get attachments and start talking about what I think works on these. I think a lot of people enjoy when I give my attachments that I like to use on the gun, so I'm going to try to start incorporating that as we go further into the series. But I hope you guys did enjoy. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.